Survival requires biological adaptation we can barely comprehend. For the deep-sea worms hunting in this void, the dark is simply a medium for chemical ambushes. Green bomber worm. In the pelagic zone, 2.5 miles deep, there is no substrate to hide behind. A soft-bodied organism suspended in the open water column is a mathematical certainty for predation. To break a hunter's visual tracking, this organism abandoned physical armor for a non-physical defense mechanism. It utilizes bioluminescent autotomy. Attached to its body are 4 pairs of fluid-filled elliptical sacs. When threatened, it does not flee immediately. It detaches these sacs, which instantly ignite through a violent chemical reaction. The detached modules remain active for several seconds, creating intense green decoys. This focuses the predator's optical sensors on a fixed, burning point. Simultaneously, the worm executes a rapid-fire swimming maneuver using a hydraulic escape jet, synchronized perfectly with the detachment to maximize the distance. We build fighter jets that deploy airborne flares to divert heat-seeking missiles. This worm perfected the same optical diversion architecture millions of years before we understood aerodynamics. While some species rely on explosive chemistry to survive the void, others have engineered continuous flow vacuum pumps out of their own musculature, manipulating the very fluid dynamics of the deep, a mechanism we will examine later. Abyssal spaghetti worm. But down on the benthic sediment, 5,000 meters deep, the problem changes. The abyss is a nutrient desert. An organism cannot wait for food to fall directly onto its mouth. To survive here, it must drastically expand its collection radius without exposing its vulnerable central anatomy. The apparatus consists of dozens of prehensile tentacles, each capable of extending 20 times the length of the central body. These are independent, fluid-driven sensory organs. If scaled to human proportions, an individual sitting in the center of a stadium could pick up specific grains of sugar from the furthest seats using only its hair. The underside of each tentacle contains a longitudinal groove lined with microscopic cilia. This creates a continuous conveyor belt of mucus, transporting nutrient particles back to the mouth while the tentacle remains fully extended. Abyssal scale worm. Closer to the hydrothermal vents, the high-pressure, abrasive environment demands intense physical protection. But thick armor usually sacrifices the flexibility required for predatory strikes. This organism solved the contradiction. Its dorsal surface is covered by 2 rows of sclerotized plates called elytra. This is biological chainmail, constructed from highly modified proteins and chitin, optimized for absolute flexibility. The scales exhibit intense iridescence through microscopic light-diffracting structures, calculated to confuse the optical sensors of surrounding deep-sea crustaceans. When it hunts, it explosively averts a muscular, chitin-toothed pharynx. The strike is so rapid it creates a localized pressure drop in the water, vacuuming the prey directly into the crushing zone. Pigbutt worm. In the mid-water column, kinetic movement is an energetic liability. This organism survives by doing absolutely nothing. It suspends itself in the void, utilizing highly inflated middle segments strictly as hydrostatic buoyancy stabilizers. The morphology is not a byproduct of pressure trauma. It is a perfectly calculated equilibrium. Once locked in position, it secretes a massive, stationary sphere of mucus. This operates as a passive industrial filter, capturing the constant rain of organic marine snow through adhesive chemical bonding. If physically disturbed, it releases a cloud of bioluminescent mucus that permanently coats the attacker. It does not fight. It simply marks the predator as a glowing target for larger hunters in the dark. Deep-sea spoonworm. Down on the abyssal plains, a stationary organism must harvest a nutrient desert without moving its primary anatomy from safety. The solution is extreme hydraulic extension. By manipulating internal fluid pressure, it stretches its proboscis to over 10 times the length of its own body. The tip operates as a hypersensitive neurochemical array, pinpointing the molecular gradient of high-protein carcasses meters away. Once deployed, a central groove lined with microscopic cilia generates a high-speed fluid current, transporting the material back to the concealed body. It is a long-range telescopic crane arm equipped with a continuous conveyor belt. The proboscis is frequently mistaken for a head, but it is merely an expendable tool. If severed, the worm regenerates the entire apparatus within weeks. Copper-jawed bloodworm. This predator synthesizes its weaponry from the chemical sediment. Its 4 jaws are composed of a protein matrix heavily reinforced with atacamite, a copper-based mineral. With copper accounting for up to 10% of the jaw's overall weight, the structure achieves a hardness rivaling industrial-grade plastic. It is triggered by a sudden spike in internal fluid pressure, everting the pharynx outward like a pneumatic piston. The hollow, metal-plated jaws puncture the target and immediately inject a high-affinity neurotoxin. Abyssal peanut worm. Exposure in the open water is an immediate death sentence. To survive, an organism requires a retrieval mechanism so rapid it achieves total concealment before a predatory strike can connect. This is the biological telescope we tracked earlier. It utilizes a highly specialized hydrostatic skeleton to collapse its entire body inward, folding like a reversed glove in under 1/10 of a second. Maintaining this extreme efficiency requires pristine internal fluid pressure. To prevent metabolic waste from corrupting the system, it deploys autonomous swimming urn cells in its zoolomic fluid. These act as microscopic maintenance drones, ensuring the pressure gradient remains flawless. It is not a passive organism. It displaces several times its own weight in compacted deep-sea clay, securing itself in the earth while the water column above remains a killing field. Abyssal Fat Innkeeper. This worm is an architectural engineer operating a biological continuous flow vacuum filtration system. By creating relentless waves of muscular contraction, the worm functions as a peristaltic piston. It draws a permanent stream of water through its burrow. Across the tunnel's diameter, it secretes a funnel-shaped mucus net. The molecular mesh is woven so fine, it captures individual bacteria directly from the current. It tolerates commensal guest species within its tunnel, but strictly as a pragmatic landlord. The moment a guest disrupts the hydraulic flow or alters the delicate pressure gradient, the worm physically ejects the offender into the dark. It is a high-precision clean room, operating in the most unforgiving environment on the planet. And while humanity blindly drags industrial trawlers across these abyssal plains, permanently crushing these fluid dynamic marvels into the silt, they continue pumping in the dark, executing patents of survival we are systematically destroying before we even learn to read them.